Have you watched the Manti Teo documentary?
I haven't seen the documentary. I just saw what they were doing and all that. And I saw like a clip from it, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
It's so interesting. Me and Mackenzie just
Is it?
started it. Yeah, it's wild.
It's, I mean, it's all about like him getting catfished, right? That's pretty
Yep.
much it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which
That's
at the
crazy.
time I didn't even know that was what was
I didn't
happening.
either. I didn't either. I saw where he was like saying that like he got hated on and everything, and I definitely hated on him
I
because
did
I didn't
too.
know he was getting catfished. I thought he just made it up. So
Same. That's what I told Mackenzie last night. I was like, this is about a guy who was an incredible linebacker that made up that he had a girlfriend.
right.
And that is completely false now that all the catfishing stuff has come out. But that's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you need to watch it. I think it's like 3 episodes. It's a docu-series on Netflix.
Have
Um,
y'all finished it?
no, we're like 30 minutes into the first episode,
Oh wow.
but it's cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
before we get into some Mississippi State stuff, let me get first shout out our sponsor, for whom the cowbelltolls.com, sports site for Mississippi State sports with sbnation.com. So this is our third episode. Last week we were able to interview Matt Wyatt, which was incredible. I'm guessing you've had a chance to listen to it.
Yeah, sorry, my mic messes up over here, but yes, I did.
What was the thought behind the question that you had asked him about the position groups?
What you mean, like as it pertains to the quarterback?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was good. Like that's the thing. I also wanted to tell you, like maybe we should be like, hey, with all due respect here, you were a great quarterback for us, but is this the best class we've had? But I think it was just interesting to hear his take on it, especially with him playing in that position. And I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
like, I do think that this is one of the best classes we've seen. And I think that we've got studs, on the bench, on the field, and then in the recruiting portal, coming in next year too. So I'm really excited about it. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to say that, I agree with a lot of what he said too. So
Yeah, when he responded, I thought the same thing. He was saying he had a pretty good squad in there with him and Wayne Matkin, and I did not realize that Kevin Fant was that old, to be honest. Like,
right, I
because
didn't either.
I remember to me, Kevin Fant was the very first quarterback I can remember at Mississippi State in my life, because he kind of took over the early 2000s era,
Right,
and I didn't realize that he was in that same quarterback room, which is pretty neat. But
that is pretty cool.
that was a pretty good room. I would venture to say that Dak and Tyler Russell actually had a pretty good room as well, because I think Nick Fitzgerald hopped in with that
Mhm.
crew as well. So
Yeah, he did. He did. I mean, and there was a time where, like, honestly, I know people don't really think about it too much, but like Dak and Nick and KT, we had KT on the
yeah,
bench, and Jalen Maiden was on the team at that time as well. Like, that was a stud group. I mean, those guys went out and played well in other teams. So
Jalen Maiden, where is he?
he's at like man, I want to say like a ULM or something like that. I really don't know where he is
San
now. He
Diego
was supposed to
State.
be okay. There you go. There you go.
That's awesome.
He was going to be the man too, from
I know.
everything I
I
thought.
remember us talking about him all the time. That kid was a stud.
Yeah, I remember seeing him like in the district or something like that one night, and he was like massive. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that dude's a quarterback. Like
He's
just
a big
jacked. Like,
boy.
yeah, he was like, I was impressed with him. He was an animal for sure.
It says here on his his bio at San Diego State, appeared in 3 games as a true freshman for the Bulldogs, completing 1 of 2 of his passes for 9 yards.
Nice, nice. What a stat.
50% completion rating.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, but yeah, I think the quarterback room question was really cool, for Matt to get to answer, being a former quarterback, and that
Yeah,
whole interview was really neat. And again, thank you, Matt, for coming on the show and taking
absolutely.
the time to do that with us. So, okay, I have to hit on a couple of mistakes. At least one mistake I remember that I made on the podcast on the first episode with you. I said Martin Emerson was still here. Martin Emerson plays
Mm.
for the Browns now.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
Martin Emerson is currently picking off NFL quarterbacks in preseason and dominating the preseason game right now, which is awesome. But I had to clarify that. I meant Emmanuel Forbes, because those two guys I would get confused all of last year anyway, being on both ends of defense. And so
Right.
I apologize. I said Martin Anderson. I definitely meant Emmanuel Forbes, but we do have a stud corner coming back, Emmanuel Forbes, and several in the tank as well. I think that's actually a deep position group that we have in our DBs.
Yeah.
So
I
just
do too. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about our defense. I think that's the thing I'm most excited about. Obviously, like I want to see Will and the offense and everything, but I feel like we just don't know what to expect on defense. And I feel like we have some really, really solid talent all over the place on it. And I love our defensive coordinator. So
yeah, I I think we need to pay Zach Arnett his money over and over again.
right. Absolutely.
All right. So when this podcast gets released, we will be 1 week away from kickoff, from week one of college football. So give me the top 3 things that you are most excited about this season.
For Mississippi State or just as a whole?
You can do it as a whole. Like, I mean, this can just be like top 3 things you're excited about football season, top 3 things you're excited about the leaves falling off the trees, like whatever it is. Like, give me the top 3 things that you are excited about this season.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them's definitely just going to be the weather change. That's like always one of my favorite things about fall. That and with like because it's getting a little bit cooler. It's not winter yet, but it's nice. You can actually go outside and have a good time. That's always like my favorite thing about fall. That's why it's my favorite season. But then also on top of that, college football is this time of year, so that's like literally what makes it the best. With that being said, I mean, honestly, number 2, my favorite thing coming up, college football starting. So like that's honestly like my second favorite thing that's going on right now. And that's like all I can think about, all I'm looking at. Like, it's like it's hard for me to work right now because I'm so ready to watch. I'm so ready to watch Vandy play this weekend. Like,
I can't wait, dude.
So
Vandy
that's
versus
like
Hawaii in Hawaii. I think I'm picking Hawaii. I'm not sure.
I don't even know. I have not a clue, man. I don't know what to think about any of these games this weekend. But yeah, I'm just like pumped up to get back to college football. And then I guess other than that, what else would I be excited about? Really just kind of, I don't know. I'm really excited to see this third year. If we're going to go like football specific, third year for Mike Leach, I think that's going to be like the biggest thing. Like one of the things that I'm like really, really ready to see, because we've had him for 2 seasons. It was a complete flip from our other offensive team, like we were run first team. And I think now it's like his time to really hit the ground running, and we can really see what his team and like what he's capable of. So I'm super excited, but also nervous to have this season, because I feel like if he doesn't do well, he's in the hot seat for sure.
So that's a perfect transition to my next question for you, and it's kind of around the Mike Leach system. And one thing that Mike Leach talks about over and over and over again is how, and I say over and over and over, ironically, but is the repetition that this system requires for it to be good. For this system to turn out to be a good offense, there has to be repetition, which is one of the big reasons why no one's even talking about Sawyer Robertson, is because Will Rogers has by far the most reps in this offense. So regarding the aspect of the system, do you think Will Rogers can improve this season, and in what ways other than passing? Because you kind of alluded to on our first episode of, man, you think he's going to throw for over 5,000 yards, which isn't really that much more than he threw for last year. It's like
right.
15 to 18 more yards a game, which is nothing. So how can Will Rogers improve in this system other than passing?
Right. And
I mean passing yards, not just passing, but just passing yards.
Right. And yeah, I know what you mean. And honestly, like I know what like a lot of people are saying, and you hear like the athleticism talk, and you hear people saying like they wish he would move more and get out of the pocket more and run. I'm kind of opposite on that. I don't think that's the strategy we're going for. I don't think that's the style we're going for. What I want to see, and this is not going to be a stat, or this is not going to be really anything that we can like quantify in any way, but I want to see him just be more of a leader and more vocal on the field. I saw a lot of that last year at the end of the season, and I know he is. He's definitely a leader, definitely vocal. That's why he's in the position that he's in with the quarterbacks we have on the bench. If he was not the leader, he wouldn't be starting. But with that being said, like, and I know I've probably mentioned this to you before, like I think I go back and watch that Auburn game last year, the first half versus the second half. The first half is Will Rogers when he's not confident and not being the leader, not being vocal that he can be. Second half is a complete flip. There's like one play is my favorite play last season where he looks over. We're in a goal line. He looks over at his receiver and he points to the left, telling this guy, "Hey, take this route to the left right here. I'm just going to throw you a little dump pass and we're going to score a touchdown." And that's exactly what happened. He looked at the guy, called the play. He's confident, and he didn't even look at anyone else. He just turned around and threw the ball. If he can do that and have that level of confidence in himself, then he will win games for us all year long. And that's what I want to see. Like I said, not quantifiable, but that's what we need. So,
Bro, that play that you're talking about is nearly unstoppable.
right.
Like I don't know that there's a time where he comes up to the line and sees the defender backed up 5 yards into the end zone, and he's like, "Hey, cut." And it's usually Austin Williams because he's in that slot guy position. But man, that's a guaranteed touchdown if that DB backs up. And I think that you're right. That's the kind of stuff though that this year we could see him calling those plays from the line of scrimmage and start changing the game and really start putting more points on the board when we need them. So that's
And to go back to
agree.
your question, I feel like you said, like Mike Leach talks about repetition. I think that's what he's saying. Like it's like Will Rogers has to see every defense that they possibly have so that he knows what he needs to audible into. And a lot of that goes to him. And so I think that's the big piece of repetition is just seeing the defenses over and over and over again to knowing how you can pick them apart. Because the guy's got an arm and he could throw. He's just got to read the defenses. So
definitely. So let's keep talking about the quarterback room now that we've got a commitment from Chris Parsons. Praise the Lord. He's committed. Just got to get that dude signed come December, and he's going to change quite possibly everything about the offense if he gets that opportunity to play. But with him sitting in I think that's part of Mike Leach's thing is he wants quarterbacks to sit under the system and practice and reps and practice, like just keep practicing. I don't necessarily think he wanted Will Rogers to play his freshman year, but it's going to turn out to make him the probably career passing leader in every passing stat in college football ever.
Right.
But talking about that quarterback room, is there any reason even in the next 3 years that we should talk about anyone's name but Will Rogers?
I don't think so. I mean, unless one of these guys, really steps up, I don't think so. I mean, I think he's going to be our guy. Like he is our guy, obviously, and I think he's going to be. I hope that he is the type of person like Dak, but we're still talking about him after he leaves, and I think we will be because I think he's got that level of talent and leadership, and I think he's really bought into Mississippi State just like Dak was. I think a big piece of why we love Dak so much is because he loves the university so much. Same thing with Will. But with that being said, I don't know. I mean, Chris could really step in and be a stud, but then you've got Sawyer Robinson, you got Lovertich on the, it's just like, I don't really know where to go after Will. I agree with what you're saying. I really don't think that Chris is going to come in and be like a starter anytime soon. I think he'll sit under somebody else, but I do think that he will eventually be the guy for us.
Yeah. So you named all the names except Braden Locke is also in the mix. Like there's so many kids in that mix of quarterbacks that okay, so you've been a Mississippi State fan long enough to know the backup quarterback's the most loved player on the field or off the field. Right. So what would you tell a Mississippi State fan this season that is fed up with Will after the defensive lineman comes through and his pinky grabs Will's thing and Will falls down and gets sacked?
I guess they just need to, find somebody that's a little bit tougher. I don't know what even to tell the fans. Like, like if the fans are getting mad at our quarterback, they just need to chill and give him another chance, I feel like. But I don't know. With that being said, if Will's just not being tough and not being a leader, then let's find somebody else that can. Because we've got, like you said, we've got 3 guys on the bench that are just as good.
That's the issue, because I would venture to say there's a lot of people out there that think Will isn't being tough in some game scenarios.
Right.
And the problem is it comes back to the repetition of Will Rogers has the most reps. He understands the offense. He's getting to the point to where he can make those plays on the line of scrimmage and call out those plays.
Right.
I think if you added his legs, and it's not like Will is a slow person. It just takes him a while to make the decision to go.
Right.
And so if Will could turn that into making the decision to go quicker, I don't think people would look at him as not tough. But I think I don't see any possible scenario this season besides injury for anybody to come in besides Will Rogers.
No, I agree. I don't see any other reason for it. I think, and also with what you're saying about the repetition and stuff, Leach wants to see him get like that Auburn game is another great example. Like he was not a good quarterback in the first half, but Leach just kept him in there, kept him, building his confidence, and then he comes out and in my opinion, plays the best half of his career so far at the university. So yeah, I think it's just keep him in, keep him getting the reps, and I think eventually it'll make it happen. And honestly, you said something right there that made me think about like what Will Rogers needs to fix the most is his decision making. Like he just needs to be quicker in decision making, regardless if it's running or throwing. He just needs to be quicker throughout the whole process.
If he changes that and he gets better, which we've seen him get better every year, if that's the part where he gets better this year, we will win games that we lost last year. Those
Right.
close games that were field goal games, I think we will win those games just because of his decision making. So, okay, let's get into some schedule stuff. I want to kind of run through a couple of these dates with you and ask you some questions about some certain games. Next week, we'll preview the Memphis Tigers, solely talk about them, talk about last year's game as much as that hurts. And
Right.
then just kind of talk about their record from last year, who they're returning, all that kind of stuff. This week, I just kind of want to roll through our schedule for this year, and kind of get your take on all of these teams. So first off, I'll go through and say win or loss, and then we'll go back and hit some of these games. I want to talk specifically about a 6-week span of games in this season
Right.
that I want your take on. But okay, first off, Memphis versus Mississippi State happening next Saturday. Who you got?
Memphis versus Mississippi State, it's 100% Mississippi State. If we don't win that game, then our boys just don't even want it. There's no way. If I was a bettor, I'd bet every single penny I have on that game. There's no way after what happened last year, we don't have a massive chip on our shoulder, and I feel like we're going to be going to that game angry and ready to win. So I'm nervous for Memphis in that one.
I totally agree. I think that's going to be much different than people expect just because of what people are looking at as last year's game. I think this is a different, older team, and it's at home, which makes all the difference.
Right.
Okay, week 2, going to Arizona, one of the scariest games. But let me remind you, this team finished 2-10 last season.
Right. Yeah, that's a win. I mean, I'm not going to pick us to lose that game. It is tough to go on the road to Arizona. It's not a team we play a lot. They are Power 5. We shouldn't lose that game though. We should be able to go on the road and win that. And not have any questions about it, honestly.
Okay, so this next game, I would love your take on the question I asked Matt Wyatt last week. This is Mississippi State at LSU. And I asked him, does his view of the 2022 Mississippi State football team change if we win this game?
Yes, yeah, and he did say yes to that, and I would say I agree with that. Honestly, I want to see what they look like too. I think that was a part of what he said as well.
Yeah.
I want to see what LSU looks like. We don't have they're probably the biggest question mark to me in general. With I don't know how Brian's going to step in. I mean, it's a different team to him. It's a different atmosphere. It's just a completely different environment altogether. And so I'm very interested in it. But I do think that if we win that game and just the talent that we know that they have, yeah, the rest of the season is going to be looking very, very positive for me. So
yeah,
I do think that that's a winnable game.
One thing we do know about Brian Kelly is that he has an amazing Southern accent.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I didn't know he was Southern until he got to LSU. So.
Okay, next week. So did you say win against LSU?
I would say I would say we could go on the road and win that game. I would say win, yes. But honestly, like I said, that's a question mark for me. Not gonna lie, I would love to see what they look like the first couple of weeks. So
that's so hard for me to say if it's a win or a loss. And I mean, a lot of it rides on being at Death Valley at night. But
right,
like if that game's in Starkville this year, I have full faith we win that game.
Absolutely.
Which is why I lean towards just saying win anyways, because they don't have a quarterback yet. Like they're confused. Like you said, Brian Kelly's got a lot to adjust to. I go towards just saying win, and that means we start the season off more than likely 4-0 because the next week is Bowling Green at Mississippi State. I'm guessing you're going to go with win.
Yeah, we got to win that one.
Yeah. Okay. So this brings up the big 6 week. Just there are a lot of toss-up games. A lot of these games could go either way. We'll both just go ahead and say a loss at Alabama.
Yeah.
But 6 weeks straight.
Mm.
Texas A&M at Mississippi State, Arkansas at Mississippi State, State at Kentucky, State at Alabama, Auburn at Mississippi State, and Georgia at Mississippi State.
That has to be the toughest 6 games in a row that any team in the country has.
It's
That there's no way that
unbelievable.
anybody, when you pull Georgia and Alabama in the same six week spread, and then you fill the weeks in between with Kentucky, Arkansas, A&M,
And
and
Auburn.
and Auburn, it's like, what in the world, man? Like, those are the best teams in the country right there.
So I'll definitely clarify if it's at home or not. But Texas A&M at home, who do you have in that game?
Mississippi State. No reason other than the fact that it is at our house, and the fact that I just feel like we have their number. I mean, we
Excuse
play
me,
good against
number
them every year.
6, Texas A&M. If I didn't say that, number
Right,
6.
right. Somebody explain that to me, please.
What? I
Yeah,
don't. That's has to be the most overrated. A&M has one of the most overrated logos I've ever seen.
they really do. They really do. Them and Oklahoma every year. I don't know what Oklahoma's ranked is this year. And honestly, I haven't looked at a single ranking because I'm pretty sure that like AP is what they go by now. And I will not. I don't care what the AP says. It's a crap poll, and I will stand by that.
It means nothing now because of the
Yeah.
college football playoff poll, and that's the only thing that means something.
Right. That's really it, honestly. But yes, I think we win that game at home against A&M.
What's interesting is I feel the same way. I think that's a win as well. What's interesting is the numbers is number 6 Texas A&M, and then the next week we play number 19 Arkansas. Both of those games at home, and I am more nervous about the Arkansas game than I am against number 6 Texas A&M.
Yep. I am too 1000%. I'm number one because every time we play Arkansas, it's a tight game. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if one of us is better than the other. It's always a good game with them. But also they're good. They're good this year. They got
They
a
are
great
good.
quarterback. They're returning a lot of players. Their coach is really like hitting his stride there. I mean, yeah, they're going to be a better team than I think they're getting credit for. And that game does scare me.
I think I marked that one up as an L on my schedule.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really mean to agree with you, but that's really where my head was going to. Like that.
Yeah.
That's where I'm thinking as well. There that would be a loss for us.
But so that game could be real hyped up if what we said beforehand comes to happen, which would mean we were 5-0 going into that game in Arkansas. And I don't know what Arkansas' schedule looks like up until that point.
Yeah.
But if they've got an easy first 5 games, that could be a game day location for sure. If it's
it really could.
State.
And I'll be honest, if we are 5-0 at that time, I think we win that game just because of the hype we'll have coming, and the fan base will show up. You know what I mean? If we are 5-0, that's it. We're going to beat Arkansas.
Yeah, it's different when you put it like that. That just makes it look different. But just like out of not knowing the record at all and looking at that game, I lean towards loss just because they return a lot, and that's going to be a hefty team coming to Starkville. So, and we will have just played A&M and hopefully won, and I think it will be a win. But in any of those SEC games, you got to expect to lose some players to injury or whatever. So,
Right.
So then the next week we go on the road to number 20 Kentucky. Right now is the AP poll.
Right. I'm gonna be honest. This is a game that like is also yet again a toss up for me. I think we have the team to beat Kentucky. And honestly, I think I'm going to be flipped here. Like, I think if we beat Arkansas, we lose to Kentucky. And if we lose to Arkansas, we beat Kentucky. I'm going to call this an L just because the only reason is because the person on the road, the last 7 years we play with them has lost. Or I'm sorry. Yeah. The home team has won the last 7 games. They're at home.
Wow.
That's the record that we've seen there. So I'm going to put an L there. But like I said, I think we are a better team than them. And I think we should win that football game.
Dude, I did not realize that. The last 7, you said the last 7 years the home team's won?
Yes, it's I'm pretty sure that's it, if I'm not right. Or the last 6, 6 or 7 years the home team's won that game. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a really good point about I think we come away 1-1 with Arkansas and Kentucky. I lean towards win against Kentucky because I kind of feel the same way about that you do with A&M. Like we have their number. I kind of feel like we have Kentucky's number as well.
Yeah.
It's one of those teams where their logo does not scare us at all. Like
Right.
we usually go into that game. Now I will say Kentucky and Lexington, it's gotten a whole lot more rowdy up there. And if that game's at night, it's not easy to go to Lexington and win anymore. That's for sure.
Right.
But then the next week we go to Alabama, and we can kind of keep going through this one. With mark that up as an L. It's going to be hard to go on the road. That is a team where the logo obviously scares the crap out of us.
Right.
And
It does.
it never fails that our team looks at that A on the helmet and goes, "We can't win this game." And
Right.
I feel like that has a lot to do every season with how we lose to Alabama. But
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah. And that game last year against them was it looked like a different team.
Yeah.
And they smoked us. I mean, I agree with you. I don't know what happens when we play them a lot of times, I mean, since I've been a State fan, there's only been a handful of seasons where we've gotten close.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yep. So lost there. Auburn at Mississippi State.
Yeah, this is a win. I think we should win this game pretty dominantly, honestly. Like, I know Auburn's kind of a question mark for a lot of people. We don't know a lot about them. But I think them coming to Davis Wade, we win that game.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm going to skip this one, come back to it. On November 19th, we play East Tennessee State at home. That should be an easy one. And then we go on the road on Thanksgiving to play Ole Miss, who is at the moment ranked number 21.
Right. This is a win. And I'm going to kind of go back to what we were talking to earlier about Leach's season and him possibly being in the hot seat. This is a must win for him. A lot of fans are even saying, we go 11-1 and lose to them again, we're going to be mad, so I think they really just want to see that win at the end of the year. I don't think anybody really right now, since we've lost the last 2 years, I don't think anyone really cares about anything but that game, looking ahead. So
It's true. And this is the year that Leach needs to do it, because God forbid us lose this game. And that was without the next year after Matt Corral had left. We know they're going to be in a down year. History is going to repeat itself. They're going to have a down year. They have to have a down year. They won 10 games last season. So They can't expect to win 10 games again. This is the year he needs to go to Oxford and win, because if he doesn't, like you said, I think State fans are going to be upset.
Right. And honestly, a lot of what I've seen and heard is like it just wasn't the same at his other places. Like the rivalry wasn't, And so now he's at a location where we put a lot of emphasis on the rivalry with the school up north, and we want to see wins there. And I think he needs to realize that. So
yeah, at Tech, Tech barely even has a rival in Texas. Like, there's not really a team that they point to where it's like ugly. At Washington, Washington and Washington State became more of a rivalry, but Washington dominated that because they were in the top 10 almost every year whenever he was the coach at Washington State. So he wasn't able to win most of those games. But this is the last thing I want to talk about today. November 12th, I believe, will be one of the largest crowds all season long that Starkville will see. Number 3, Georgia at Mississippi State. Georgia only comes around every so often because of the switching in and out of SEC East teams. What are your thoughts on that game?
I think if there's one game on the season that we are not supposed to win, that we will win, it's that game right there. Them coming to us, we played pretty good against them a couple years ago when we went to Georgia. Them coming to us, I don't think. Yeah, I think that's a very good chance we win that game. I also, yet again, I know I've said this a couple times already about other teams. There's just a lot of question marks around Georgia. It's a down year for them. I know we got Stinson coming back, but a lot of people don't even think he's going to be the starting quarterback halfway through the year because they've got such a stud on their bench. And so, we really just don't know what the team's even going to look like for Georgia at that time. And I think it's interesting to see. I think they're going to be, I do think they're a newer Alabama. I don't think they are Alabama yet, but I think we're going to see very consistently good years put together back to back to back to back. They're going to be in the playoff. They're going to be in the championship. And it's because of their recruiting, their defense. I think they've got a good coach. But it's a lot about the way that they recruit and the way that they put an emphasis on defense. And so we will see them be one of the better teams in the country for a sustainable couple years here.
Yeah.
But with that being said, they're not Alabama, and they are coming on the road to play us at home. And like you said, it's going to be a loud, really, really hop-in Davis Wade environment. That's a game that they really need to be looking out for, and I think we should too.
Yeah. I can't say that we will win that game. I mean, it's the defending national champions, but I think I can say that we'll give them all they want, because I don't think Kirby Smart will go away from his game plan. And Kirby Smart is set in his ways, and he coaches it well, the man-to-man defense. And that's the worst defense you could use against us. And LSU a couple years ago proved it. I mean, when you stay in a man defense against us, we're going to find holes in it.
Right.
And we proved it against them a couple years ago when we lost by 7 at Georgia.
Right.
Like we're going to give them all they want. And I think there's a great chance we pull it off. And if we do, there's also a great chance the field goal posts are coming down. So
yeah, I know that's one that I need to be at for sure. Because if field goal posts are coming down, I'm going to be out there ripping them down for sure.
So if you were to chalk up the record after what you just said, we will have lost 2 games.
Yeah.
So is the ceiling 10-2 or is it 9-3?
I think the ceiling's 10-2 for me. I think the ceiling is like a 10-2. I think 10-2 is like is peak for me. I think that's the best that we could do.
That's having a really good season.
Right. I think that's winning a couple games we probably shouldn't, honestly. Yeah. But I think 8-4, 9-3 is. I think 9-3 is a great year for us. That's winning every game that we should and losing to 3 really good football teams.
Think about all the toss-up games. You've got Ole Miss, Georgia, Auburn. Alabama's not a toss-up. Kentucky, Arkansas, A&M, and LSU. That's 7 toss-up games.
Right, and that's what scares me.
Yep.
You know, and that's why. And also just being a Mississippi State fan, I can't look at a season and say 10-2 just because I've done that several times and I always get my heart broken. So
that's so tough. I like it's so possible looking at it going, we could definitely do 10-2 with losses to Bama and Georgia, or maybe upsetting Georgia and losing to Arkansas or A&M. It could happen. So 10-2 is the ceiling. I know we said 9-3 last time, but if we're playing our the best ball all year long, 10-2 could happen. And then you'll see me and Addison at the Sugar Bowl next year. So that's going to be it for today's episode. We will discuss all things Memphis Tigers next week when we are leading up to the first game of the season. Thank you, Lord.
Yes.
Football's back.
It's here, man. Hell State. Let's go.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, we'd like to thank forwhomthecowbelltolls.com, Mississippi State sports website, through SB Nation, and we will see you guys next week.